Hello, Gemini. First of all, Happy New Year and welcome back to Mind, Body, and Heart Tarot Therapy. I'm here to do the reading for Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs for January 2020. I hope you had a great wrap up of the year 2019. Thank God that's over with. Well, depends on your experience of it, but it had been quite an intense year for many of us. So yeah, let's see what's coming up for you in January 2020. This is a general reading, so if it resonates, and if it doesn't, then it's just not your reading. Don't try to fit it in, stretch it to fit your story. And do use your own intuition to know what you can take and what you can need to leave. So the Magician is your current energy. Nice. This is your card, right? Because it's Mercurian energy. And you, Gemini, is being ruled by Mercury. So you might be very much in your element right now. This is your challenge. The Seven of Wands. Let's see what's your focus for this month. Nine of Swords is your focus. See what's your advice. Okay, why not? The Four of Wands as your advice. Let's see, where's this taking you? What's the future energy? Okay, Strength. Nice. And bottom of the deck, we have the Ace of Cups as your theme, the underlying energy being your theme of your reading. So it's pretty much kind of what you're working with this month of January, which talks about like really opening one's heart and being able to access that type of unconditional love and that type of connection to the collective, to the whole, to the source, to everything there is. So seems like quite a month for you. Nice beginning of the year. Now let's see what is going to be. Let's clarify these cards before going deeper. Where are these cards here? So you have the Magician with the Princess of Discs, which is the Page of Pentacles, basically. You have the Seven of Wands with the Ten of Swords as your challenge. You have the Ten of Discs, which means wealth in this deck, with the Nine of Swords as your focus. You have the Universe with the Four of Wands as your advice. And you have the Ace of Discs with Strength as your future energy. And bottom of the deck we have the Queen of Swords along with the Ace of Cups as the theme of your reading. Just a sip of tea. All right. So the Ace of Cups with the Queen of Swords. I really like this imagery of the Queen of Swords. She looks like so chilled out there. She does hold the hand of what seems to be a lot like the head of a male figure, but looks more like a statue. In her left hand and in her right hand, she has a sword that probably she used to cut that head off. That's a very interesting imagery, Crowley. It's like And she's up in the sky, like just like her throne on the clouds. And yeah, I see the top of a mountain here as well. The Queen of Swords traditionally speaks about the communication. It's like air and water energy, so she's driven by the drive of the heart. Like that's the all the queens are ruled by the drive of the heart. But out of all the queens, she tends to be like the more cool-headed one that's very focused on truth and communication, and is not necessarily the most gentle of the queens. And I think that this imagery kind of hints at that she can really cut through the bullshit. And maybe it's important for you this month to be able to cut through the bullshit, whether it's your own bullshit, whether it's other people's bullshit. But being really able to see through and to not keep entertaining certain patterns that are obviously detrimental for you or the people around you or the dynamics that you find yourself in, whether it's at work, at home, family, friends, whatever. So yeah, I think this month of January, this beginning of the year, in order for you to be able to open your heart and sustain this loving, compassionate, connectedness, belonging type of energy, this overflowing that comes from within. And it's like you see, there's the white dove here, bringing peace, like peace in your heart and peace on your mind. And it's overflowing in the sea of like the collective unconscious. And yeah, in order to hold that space, maybe it is really important for you to cut some heads. And those heads aren't literal people. I mean, like, obviously, there's nothing to do with war or aggression. It's more about like really not listening to what your mind is saying sometimes, or what people that are just ruled by the mind and disconnected from the spirit, disconnected from their hearts, disconnected from their bodies are saying. Because we can get into that trap of like just listening to the mind, listening to the logic, listening to the what sounds like the right thing to do, and we disregard what our inner wisdom tells us, which is usually very accurate and very on point. So yeah, I think this very weird imagery here, I'm still surprised by it. I think I've never noticed this head here. That's why I'm so surprised. It's just a reminder of this, like being able to cut through the bullshit, being able to see beyond the patterns and beyond the obligations and so on, and come up in a more authentic way from a place of compassionate awareness and unconditional love, both for ourselves and for even for our mind and for our what we think we're supposed to be doing. We can have compassion for that because we can understand where that's coming from. The Queen of Swords is very logical, right? She is very clear-minded. She's not confused at all. That's why she can cut off this head of the inner demons that tell us always what to do and what we're not. They don't tell us like we are great and fantastic. They tell us that we're not good enough or something. She's able to see beyond that immediately. That's completely irrelevant. She cuts it off before it even take a root inside herself. And she is able to keep this relaxedness, being so chilled out and having that peace of mind and peace of heart. And Magician, he also talks a lot about communication because it's Mercurian energy, and it's like really putting, I think, if you think about magic and magic potions and magic, not mantras, what they called in magic? I don't know, magic formulas or things like this. They're all words, but they're words that seem to really convey something incredibly powerful in very, very few words. Even prayer, it's a little bit like magic. Um, Keywords, abracadabra, whatever. And that's just a joke, but in general, like having to do to with what the use of mantras as well. Like, okay, so it's a setting an intention and focusing one's full attention on that intention and knowing that it can happen, trusting that it can happen. Because the magician, like, he is able to connect to both the above and the below, right? And he has on the table everything that he needs. He has the ingredients, but it's up to him how he uses these ingredients. He has all the aces on the table, and you have two aces here in your reading, which is quite nice. So it's a very initiating energy. It's very much about wisdom of communication and learning how to communicate to spirit, maybe communicate to the source, your intentions, your heart's desires, your needs. And that allows you to cater for them. The Princess of Discs, she's like initiating herself into the earth magic in a sense. She's learning to communicate with the mother earth and understand how to use her resources and understand to speak the language of the trees, to speak the language of the animals, which is not necessarily verbal as we would speak to another person. You know, it's like learning how to listen, learning how to tune in, learning how to use her senses, her smell, her touch, her hearing, all that in order to survive, but more than that, in order to thrive. But she's an initiate. She's just at the beginning of the story, but she's already benefiting from it. Look at her. She's very much in her element there. She's very connected, and she knows that this brings growth. She has no doubt in her mind that by being centered, being connected, being in her senses, being alert, without the panic, you know, if we're just constantly over alert, then we go into fight and flight responses and we just get reactive. But she's quite chill from what I see. She's also not just a, you know, happy joy. She has a weapon here. I forgot what this is called. Well, it's not an arrow. It's a spike or something like that. So she knows that she needs to go for the laws of nature, which in the wild and what looks like winter, because she has like pretty heavy coat here and the trees have no leaves. She needs to hunt. She needs to, you know, like I was a vegetarian for many years because I just could not accept that an animal needs to eat in order, it needs to die in order for me to eat, and I completely rejected nature as it is. Every time I would even hear about such a thing, I would like, and we're surrounded like this, but by this is how we lived for so many years. But it's like not to even go into the cruelty of farming and the industrialization of everything. Like, of course, that's a completely different story. But for me, it went so deep that I completely rejected nature. I completely rejected that, I don't know, a lion needs to hunt in order to eat. I was always like caring for the deer that is going to be killed. And I completely oversee, I completely, I guess, disconnected and didn't even want to look at what an ecosystem looks like and how control of the population for herbivores, so you need some certain kind of carnivores, and you need this balance in order for nature to thrive in that place. And I'm not exactly sure why I'm telling you this story, to be honest, but I feel that maybe in this sense it's relevant because she is connected to nature. She understands that, these are the ways of the world, these are the ways of the earth, and she just learns to listen to it. She eats when she's hungry, she hunts if she needs to hunt, she shows mercy when there's no need to hunt. She doesn't hoard, she doesn't avoid. She's like really there, fully living the life. That was quite a speech. And yeah, connecting this with the magician, I think it's really important, exactly this, to really connect with your, this is pretty much what you're doing. This is actually your current energy. You are realizing that you have much more power, that words have power, and they have power that's like way beyond our mental grasp. And you do that, you realize this when you're deeply connecting with the earth and with your heart and with everything that's in there. But earth seems to be more important for you right now because these two came together. The pages are also like the aces for the court cards. So it's that initiation, it's that beginning. It's also look for messages in your body and in nature. You may find, I don't know, spirit messages from spirit animals, or symbolism and interpretation and whatever sounds of nature, or simply connecting to your body and starting to understand more your own inner cycles, your hormonal balance or imbalance, your reaction to certain foods and exercise and so on. Your challenge, the Seven of Wands with the Ten of Swords, and the Ten of Swords in this deck is called Ruin. I kind of like don't particularly appreciate these very fatalistic keywords that Crowley chose to put on these decks. But I'll just put it in context. Don't freak out. The Seven of Wands talks about standing up for yourself, right? And you may be challenged now with you coming into your heart and coming into your body and coming into the power that you actually have as the magician, the initiator, the beginner, and the power of the Queen of Swords, which is cut through the bullshit and cut to the chase and tell it as it is, and holding the space that she needs to be relaxed, to be connected, to be grounded. And when we do these things, we can be quite uncomfortable to many people. And we're not used to that. We're used to, generally, we are wired as people to try to please each other, mirror each other in a good way. We don't want to think of ourselves as some bad people or perceived as bad in any way. So when we start putting our own boundaries, communicating very clearly, really getting connected, but it doesn't need to be in a harsh way. I'm like, the Ace of Cups here does talk about compassion and love and unconditional love, right? So the magician knows that. He has the cup right here on the table, but he has everything else. It's a combination of all. We can't live only from like, okay, here I am, full compassion, full love, but I still need to eat and I still need to survive in the woods sometimes. So we need to learn to put our boundaries. We need to learn to communicate, and that can hurt. That can hurt people, and it can hurt back at us because they get angry and we feel like, okay, I didn't want to hurt them, or I didn't want to trigger them, and so on. And but I think that, yeah, it's challenging to hold your ground here and to hold this space for yourself. And it's definitely, it feels like maybe you're ruining friendships or connections, or the order of the world. I don't know, for me it happens sometimes, and that's just me. It doesn't necessarily mean can it's always the same for everybody. But it happens that here I come into this place when I realize, okay, yeah, I'm connected. Here I am. I'm connected with my heart. I'm really feeling that inner drive. I'm so aligned with myself and with everything. And I see sometimes how people react to that, because of course this is not the most typical type of behavior that comes from there. And then I realized also that I am the one, because this is swords energy, it's energy of the mind, and it's about the mind patterns, the neural pathways that had been created over ages and ages of, well, ages, like, lifetime, your lifetime, my lifetime. And the point is, like, whenever this was happening to me, sometimes that I was in this state and I was in this, like, really connectedness and groundedness, but also the ability to stand up for myself and discuss, my own mind would start telling me, like, who do you think you are? Don't you think like you're taking too much space? Don't you think that maybe you're selfish when you're putting on these boundaries and in order to find your own inner comfort? Everybody's sucking it up. Everybody's like holding back in order to not, I don't know, do this or that or bother other people. And I was initially surprised when I realized that it was my own mind, because most of the time I was just reacting to it. It was just like perceiving that maybe everyone else out there is looking at me with this type of judgment. But the judgment was really in my mind. The people maybe were reflecting that back at me, but it was reflecting back what I was thinking, right? So it may be challenging to see that. It may be challenging to hold your inner space, especially against your own inner judgment. And it may be difficult to let this kind of fall apart, because these are defense mechanisms. They had worked for us for a long time, keeping us safe from what we perceived as some type of disaster, like loneliness or being rejected or this or that. So we had to act like everybody does, like, I don't know, out of not from a necessarily very, very authentic place. This very authentic type of being into the world, right? But it makes sense why the focus is then the Nine of Swords with the Ten of Discs here, because this is going to help you embark in this journey, if this is your focus, to look at what your mind is telling you, right? What is my mind telling me? That maybe I'm pushing it, that maybe I should do just like everyone else does, whatever it is the habit in your community, if you have such a community, or the people around you, or in the culture that you live in, that, I don't know, men are supposed to be like this, women are supposed to be like this. This is the social etiquette. These are the expectations from somebody your age, or your gender or identity, or gender identity even, or whatever, like wherever you at. And when you allow these beliefs to that you've internalized from your environment, or from your much earlier environment or current environment and so on, and you just like allowed to yourself to be bullied by this, when you finally opening yourself up and when you're finally coming out there and like, oh yes, I'm aligned, here I am, I'm connected. But it doesn't mean that if I'm loving and compassionate, I need to take everybody's bullshit and just like sit there and allow you to slap me in the face because you're angry, and turn the other cheek. That's not the point. The point is to be able to hold space, because if I take everything in, if I take everybody's anger, negativity, limiting beliefs of themselves that they project out into the world so that their world can make sense, we're all doing that. Oh wow. Seems the New Year celebration is not finished. So by focusing on the Nine of Swords, you're focusing on your own limiting beliefs. You're so focusing on your own fears and anxiety, and see what those triggers are. What are the thoughts telling you? And when you do this, you discover this wealth within. It can be different kinds of wealth, but for example, it can be that when you see that your mind is dictating these weird rules, and you are the one bullying yourself as you're like shyly try maybe to come out and bring more authentic version of yourself into the world. And of course, if we are terrified of this, the first thing that happens is that what we fear happens. So if I just think of myself, how dare I to be as authentic as I want to be, then the first thing, first recipient of that would be, how dare you be that? That really happened in my experience, and I had the benefit to have lived in a very slow environment before, in a very self-reflective environment, in a mindfulness community, and then on an island that like really communed with nature. So I was only able to see that it was actually originating from my own mind first, and then it was reflected back at me, only because I had that groundedness and that connectedness. When I stayed back in the city more, and I was like surrounded by the fast life, by the culture, do this expectation, everybody needs to go out, pack your day with a lot of activities, do more of this social stuff, work, money, paying bills, all that. Suddenly, I mean, my mind I wasn't able to perceive this anymore. And I was going again into that mentality of like that life happens to me, and look how cruel some people can be when when all I do, I'm coming up with an open heart. Yes, the heart was still somewhat open. Yes, I was still coming from a place of compassion and stuff, but I wasn't able to see my own shadow anymore. I wasn't able to see how am I blocking my own way. I was aware that that's somewhere there, but I was starting buying into the unconscious stories of my own. What am I allowed to do or not? So as you focus on this and you start seeing the stories as they line up and tell you what you're not supposed to be doing, how you're not supposed to be your authentic self, and so on, just the act of observing already brings a wealth of groundedness, connection, and trusting in yourself, trusting that it's okay to be you, who you are, as you are. It doesn't mean that you make a show out of it. It doesn't mean that you need to teach people about how they should become themselves too, if they're not asking for it. It doesn't mean that any of that. It simply means that you are connecting to yourself, and you are giving yourself permission fully to embrace your open heart, your ability to connect, and your own magic and your own power. And as your advice, you have the Four of Wands with the universe. The Four of Wands talks about like really paying attention to your progress, where you've got, where you arrived, your achievements, what your journey had been like in order to take you where you're at. And the universe does pretty much the same, but in a much grandiose way. It's like really looking at the big picture of your life, of your soul journey, and of all your learned lessons, and integrated shadows, and growth of the growth, like inner growth, where your world becomes larger and wealthier and richer, just because you are able to allow some of these patterns, the mind patterns and thought limiting belief system, to kind of fall apart. And when I say fall apart, is not one of those like rituals in which you need to completely send off parts of you. No, no, that's burying it within. That's denying who you are. These limiting beliefs are defense mechanism, are our crutches, are what protected us when we were initially wounded. So we are just looking at this automatic response or reaction that steers in us of whatever triggers us, and we realize that we don't need it anymore. That's it. It doesn't mean that something that I think that I am or I really that's not who I am. That's the point. It's just a mechanism. And the more I realize that, the more I come out of that trance of the thoughts, and the more I start seeing the limiting beliefs, the more I realize that I grow. Like my world just becomes bigger. I can see beyond the bullshit. I can see beyond the limitations. I can see within my own power, and I can see your power. And I don't need to be better than you or lesser than you. I don't need to compare myself anymore with everyone else from these like very typical societal ways. Well, you are wealthier, you are more beautiful, you are taller, you are skinnier, you are curvier, you're more attractive, you're more rich, you're more smart, you're more, I'm less. Or the other way around. Oh, I'm better than this one's better than me, but I'm better than this one, so I'm still feeling better. I'm somewhere in the middle at least. There's something to look up to, but also something to look down to. No, that changes everything. When we are able to really see beyond this type of bullshit, we realize that there's space for everything, and there's this wealth within all of us, that inner abundance. And it's okay. I don't need to be like you. I can be just as I am with all my imperfections, and I can learn to have my own journey and my own lessons and learn them in my own way. And it's okay for me to see my progress. It's okay for me to congratulate myself, to mark my achievements, and to give myself credit. Yeah. So Gemini, I think it's important to you, for you right now. Like, look at what the lessons you've learned so far, based on these things with open heart, boundaries, the magic and the power of words and mantras and intention setting, the magic of the earth, connectedness with the body and connectedness with the cycles of the earth, standing up for yourself, allowing the limiting beliefs to fall apart, looking at the background noise that's in your brain, and uncovering this inner wealth, allow yourself to give credit for all of this. And to, whenever you feel like you failed yourself or you didn't honor yourself, to learn that this is a process and it takes time, and it's okay. Some patterns fall apart, some are more resilient, more insisting on that, like being consistent in our intention to work with it, not just saying, oh yes, that's just me, I'm just a fuck up, or yeah, that's just me, I'm whatever limiting belief it may be in your case. Sometimes I avoid giving too many examples because some people can take that as the only way of relating to this energy. So where this is taking you, it's taking you to building up that inner resilience, connecting to that inner beast of yours, like your animal nature, your animal side, your desires, whether they're physical, but it usually comes from something that we've been afraid of because it's a beast, right? But from a place of compassion. Look at this lady; she's taming this lion through love and compassion. There are no chains here. There is no sign of cruelty. There are no cages around. It's all in the wild, and she had to trust herself and have the inner strength and the courage to come to this lion and to start build up this relationship. She had to trust the lion that the lion won't eat her, and the lion had to trust her that she's not a threat, but also had to understand that she can stand up for herself if the lion just decides to see her as prey. So she needs, it's a very balanced exchange here. It's not based on fear. It's not based on it's understanding that these are very different creatures, but they can still commune. They can still connect, and together they're stronger than ever. This is pretty much how we are inside of ourselves when we are finally able to work with our fears and work with our desires rather than shove them off or somewhere in our subconscious because we just don't know how to cater for them. And this brings a world of opportunity of the Ace of Discs. This is like new opening for real life opportunities, something that you can grasp, something that you can put your hands on, whether that can mean in your work environment, in your relationships, and something that you really see the effect of in your everyday life. This is what the Ace of Pentacles is about here. That inner strength, that inner resilience, that inner balance opens up new gates for you. All right, I'm going to pull out an Rumi Oracle. Feel like these readings are getting longer and longer. They take as long as they take, yes. It's a good start of the year, Gemini. Really is. Feels like it. Cosmic Heart. This is the number 8. This is the number 8. The strength is the number 8 too. So Ace of Cups talks about like connecting to the collective consciousness and to the unconditional love that's all out there. And here you have the Cosmic Heart card coming up. I'm gonna read it for you. I'm very excited about this. Okay, so the poem from Rumi associated with this card says, I was dead, I became alive, I was tears, I became laughter. The power of love arrived and made me everlasting power. The power of love arrived and made me everlasting power. I have seen everything. I have no fear. I have the heart of a lion. I shine like Venus. Oh, come on. This is so... This is such direct connection to just these cards. I love it. I love it. All right, let's see what's the guidance with you. So this oracle comes with special guidance for you. More love is rushing towards you like a great cosmic tsunami. You will struggle with this blessing to the extent that you will attempt to hold on to what has been. That's why this swords energy, the 10 of swords and the 9 of swords are coming in strongly here. And the 10 of swords especially as your challenge, right? So you will attempt to hold on to what has been. Don't. Let go. Let it move you. You'll perhaps get some water up your nose, but nothing will come through that you cannot handle. You'll be disheveled somewhat, undoubtedly. Yet as you washed upon love's shining shore, keeping every hair in place will be the last thing on your mind. You'll be too caught up in the wonder of perfection, realizing how deeply loved you are and how unnecessary it is to contrive a way to live your purpose. Instead, you'll have no idea what's going on. You'll be surrendered in passionate embrace with life, simply being your exquisite, crazy, unique self, saturated with divine love. It will drip from you, out of your feet, your eyes, your voice, your touch. You'll water the earth with love's oceanic presence. Oh, how that tsunami will deliver you in your divine destiny. No need for any contrivance. Let your hair get messed up. Your destiny awaits you now. Well, that's a beautiful message for the beginning of the year, Gemini. I hope it makes sense to you. I think it's really wrapping up quite nicely here with this oracle. So yes, happy New Year again. Do fully enjoy this beautiful wave of love coming your way, and don't forget to do so, especially towards yourself first, and that will naturally take you to that space where you're naturally able to share it with everyone else and connect to the cosmic heart, the heart of all. Have an amazing January, and if you resonate with this reading, please like, share, and subscribe. It will really help my channel grow, and it will help us other people to benefit from these readings the same way you hopefully did. And may our practice benefit all beings. Bye bye.